Yes, it is I, your humble host, Bill Hatch the Third, coming to you live from the palatial home studios of Bald Spots Productions here in the beautiful city of Santa Ana, California. Joining me in studio, as per the usual, is my friend, my brother in Christ, the disembodied voice, Rudy.
Everybody, I love you all. Waka, 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 waka. But the Lord.
Rudy's half asleep. And joining us from a more than acceptable safe social distance through the miracle of telephony is my guest for this today, this time, this period. I don't even remember when I broadcast the thing anymore. Mandy Lemond. How you doing, Mandy?
Yay.
I am fantastic. You are in sunny it's in sunny California, and it
Yep.
is a little overcast here today down here in right near Tampa. We had a cold front come through, and it's a chilly. Listen to this, a chilly 73 degrees.
Wow. We actually have rain today. We've been having rain for the
Yeah,
last
I saw that.
last
You guys
like
got
day and a
more than
half.
rain.
It's been crazy.
It Yes, I saw that. I saw some being. I'm somewhat back in the day. I was a TV reporter and a TV broadcaster, and did I covered Hurricane Katrina. So anytime there's like
Oh
massive
wow.
flooding anywhere, I just salivate and get so interested and almost geek out. I'm a weather geek. I'm Jim Cantori is
Okay.
my spirit animal.
I have a bit of that myself. My mother's father was a meteorologist back in World War II, and did the weather
Wow.
reports for planes going to the European theater, and also for he worked with the dirigibles, the big blimps, and yeah, so when I was hanging out with him, we'd watch the news and he'd explain, oh, this is what these things on the map mean, and this is what this means, and this is why this weather reporter is wrong. But
Too fun. Too
yeah,
fun.
yeah. So
Good
I
stuff.
can geek out on the weather too. I've always wanted to do tornado chasing, but I've never
I
gotten around
mean,
to it.
I was in a tornado in Kentucky. Actually, that's where I have two Emmys to my credit, and
Nice.
the coverage that I did. Yes, as a TV reporter and also as a producer, we had an F4, F5. It was on the
Ooh,
borderline. Come through Lexington, Kentucky, where my home is, and it wiped out pretty much an entire neighborhood.
yeah, yeah.
And that coverage alone has it gives me chills thinking about it. Even this was almost 20 years ago. It just blows my mind to think the power. Here we're talking about weather. We're supposed to be talking about other things, but the power of weather. It's so intriguing. It's one thing that when you're sitting, standing in line, no matter where you are, no matter what cultural or whatnot, you can say, "Hey, the weather sucks," and start a great conversation because somebody's
Sure.
going to agree with you or disagree. I love that. Yeah,
The
yeah.
weather is a great icebreaker. But
It
yeah, we
is.
do have some serious stuff to talk about. Um,
Sure.
let's see here. Let me bring up my notes, and all that you were kind enough to speak stuff. So you said earlier you are working on a book.
I am. Yes, yes. My childhood was less than stellar. I'll just so my the name of my book is called The Fostered One. I grew up in foster care. I do not look like if one to one. Usually, you know how it is. Folks will Google you after you make an appearance on a show or whatnot. So I do not look like what I've been through. Um, excuse me. So when I was 7 years old, this story is not for the faint of the heart. So if you have children in the room, they may want to skip out. But when I was 7 years old, my father, who was estranged from my mother, broke into our home in Harlan County, Kentucky, June 21st, 1986, and raped me, stabbed me 13 times, and stabbed my mother over 40 times. And she ended up succumbing. She died. She died there that night, and I died on the way to the hospital. And it left me an orphan. No one wanted me, if you can believe that. No one wanted me. So I was sent to an orphanage. It's a group home at the time, but it was considered an orphanage in Eastern Kentucky, where I aged out at the age of 18. They came to me and said, "Hey, you no longer can stay here because you're an adult. We need you to go." The house manager, however, was kind enough to let me sleep in the garage for that summers, which was amazing for a girl who had nothing, because I had no family, I had no one. But fast forward, and then I ended up going to college. My biological aunt was kind enough to come from Harlan County and drive me to Eastern Kentucky University, where I graduated in 4 years with a degree in broadcast communication, well, communications broadcasting. And the matter of fact is, I went to college with 5 years. When you're having those days where you're trying to figure out where your next meal is coming from when you're 18 years old, you learn to, as we were talking about earlier, pivoting and resetting. So I worked 3 jobs to get through college, did an internship at the NBC affiliate, got hired on while I was in college as a TV reporter at a top 50 market. My life was looking like it was going great. Ended up marrying the local sports anchor, so we had this beautiful little life, and adopted a little boy who 2 years ago, his biological mother, he was in foster care himself, I wanted to give back. He reconnected to his biological mother, and that connection led to him. She had a bit of a drug addiction, and that became something that she introduced him to. So he was high. I seemingly had this perfect life. That's part of the book that I love to tell. I mean, it wasn't all, my life wasn't all horrible. I seemingly had this perfect life until the December 2 years ago, when my son was high on drugs. And little did I know, but he was part of a gang. Parents, check your kids, because trust me, even though you may be wealthy, you may not know what they're getting into. He opened fire on a house in a fit of rage, but he shot into the wrong dang house. And the shots, they ended up hitting and blinding a then 5-year-old. So we went from covering the news to being the news. So my life fell apart. And as for, I know your show really focuses on mental health. I'd always suffered from PTSD from the traumas of my childhood, being, in the orphanage, and then it just brought it all back. Where everybody's talking about the Bengals incident, where people are seeing someone, the player collapse, and how it's bringing up PTSD for folks who have been in emergency situations. Well, there's the millions of Americans who are walking around with undiagnosed PTSD, and it's being diagnosed as whether it's schizophrenia or bipolar or something like that, is astronomical if you look at the stats. So that's me in a little bit of a nutshell.
This is me in a nutshell. Help! I'm in a nutshell. No, but sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from a military family, so no stranger to PTSD. In others, I got my own diagnosis of that after I was in an industrial fire, and
Wow.
had to deal with that. But dealt with it quite successfully. Yeah, I have,
Good.
I guess you'd say, comorbidities. No, that's for medical. I also have ADD and major depression. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I am very much interested in mental health. In fact, I just added a slide to the new slide to the ending credits for 988. So that to
Yeah.
remind people that's the new number for mental health crises.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad the number's so much easier. I could never remember the old suicide hotline number.
Right. Right.
You know.
And there's so many folks we've seen, and after COVID, I'm sure you saw the spike in numbers of children who went into foster care, and then the coinciding of that. For me to graduate from college, I'll brag about myself for a second. For me to graduate from college, only 3% of foster children, first of all, go to college.
Right.
To graduate, if you Google it, there isn't a freaking statistic, because it doesn't happen. So I'm super, super proud of myself to say that as a foster child, that I not only graduated from college, but also, yeah, completed my degree within 4 years, got a job, and was somewhat doing super, super well, and have been able to continue to progress despite, the life challenges that have been thrown my way.
Where'd you go to school at?
I went to Eastern Kentucky University, and I'm a Colonel. Go Cat!
Yeah.
Yes, Eastern Kentucky University. That accent comes out sometimes. If you give me a shot of moonshine, which is kind of our bottle that we give right, and I'm kidding. That accent comes out quite thick sometimes.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. I lived in Kentucky for a while over at Fort Campbell. I'm actually a governor,
Okay.
Austin P. Governor. So,
Okay. Gotcha.
but yeah,
Gotcha.
you know, let's see. Fostering and adopting is close to my heart. It's not something I've done myself, but dear friend of mine adopted a pair of special needs kids, um, greatest kids in the world,
Yes.
I also did some mentoring for kids who were about to age out of the system, and here in Southern California.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
It was a great experience, and one of these days I'm going to have to get back to it. But yeah,
Yes.
I highly recommend getting involved, because there's so many kids out there waiting to be adopted. And there was a commercial on the radio last night as I was coming, or I guess I should say this morning, as I was coming home from the office, that about adopting teenagers. And so definitely a big issue in the world today. Because you're right. I mean, whether a child ends up going to college or a VOTEC school, which definitely no one should put down, or some kind of
absolutely not.
Some kind of a program to get you up, so that you're not just slinging fries down at the local McBee's. Definitely need that kind of support, for those kids. Let's see, what else? Let's see. So, have you already written a book and are writing a second, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I
I was a little confused there.
book. Yes, I've already written one book, and we are in edits right now. So we got some. We ended up adding epigenetics to the book, The Fostered One, which is the science of how your genes affect essentially.
Yeah.
How can I bet you? Well, so most people understand. So rather than me going into a long diatribe, so we're adding epigenetics and how it correlates to essentially one of the things that's in The Fostered One, the book that I wrote. As a journalist, I started noticing that foster children, there was almost a predisposition for certain families to go down this path. So I spoke with an epigeneticist, and wanted to show that there's science behind sometimes the reason why certain families are predisposed to going into foster care. So both of my children that I adopted from foster care, they were born into care. Their parents were foster children. So, and then with my family, my mother had been just psychologically abused and physically abused by her father. What they used to call mouth mashing. If she looked at her parents wrong, she would get smacked in the mouth. So the science behind why some of our parents act the way we do and why we act the way we do is just, it's amazing. It really is. But the other book that I'm writing, I mentioned my ex-husband. We are very amicable, super great friends, and I'm writing a book called A Perfect Divorce: How to Stay Sane When Your Ex Drives You Crazy. And then in quotations, it's "You Are That Ex." And you are that ex because, and here's a stat for you. January is one of the top months for folks to file for divorce.
Yeah.
They get through the holidays and they decide, which most of us know that. So they get through the holidays and they're like, okay, we're out of here. So that book it's being published a different way, which I think is really, really neat for folks to hear about. So we are releasing a chapter a week. Just very similar to very similar to the way that Netflix series. Now you can binge the whole book. The whole book will be there available for you to binge, but we're releasing a chapter a week. We thought that would be very interesting so that we can gauge how the audience is doing, and just something different, you know. Yes.
On the piers for the ships to come in with copies of his new chapters. And,
Yes.
so I think that's a really cool way to release a book. Where can people find that?
Thank you. So the book is being released on Amazon, the ADP portion of Amazon.
Okay.
So we're releasing it there, and there's also we're going to put it on Bookit, and I'm going to podcast, essentially talk about it on a new podcast that I hope to release within the next probably 3 or 4 weeks. I had a podcast prior, and as you can tell, I'm losing my voice right now. I had a podcast prior, but I have just been inundated and so thankful and so blessed with the way that my career has taken off over the last couple of months. This is just you and I talking, right? So
Oh yeah,
nobody else will hear
will
this.
hear this.
So just nobody will know. So there's a show that's coming up that we're launching on a network, either VH1 or something very similar to that I'm in the running for to be the host for.
Nice.
So that is super, super. Yes, it's super, super fun. So I can't really release much about it, but that's neat.
Well,
And then
I'm calling. You have to have me on as a guest.
Hey, honey, it'll be so much fun. It will be so much fun. Actually, you would be I just got an idea about this. Actually, that would be so much fun. But the other thing is, at 43 years old, as we all look at our hopes of losing weight and doing better in the new year. Over the last year and a half, I've lost 130 pounds and got signed. Yes, yeah, busted my booty getting there. But thank you. You're very sweet. You're very sweet. But with that said, I was able to get a modeling career out of this. So that's super neat. So just remember, no matter how old you are, you don't have to give up. That truly was my dream, is to do modeling. Even that's kind of my dream. So.
Wow, you've accomplished so many things that people would call dreams, and you've come out of a nightmare, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see. Your website is was it mandylemond.com? MANDYLEMOND.com.
Yes. And you guys, and I do also do my main paying gig that I do right now is motivational speaking. I travel globally, do virtual speaking, whether it's on talking about PTSD, divorce. I have a niche in that area. And also foster care, so I can tailor the message. I'm heading back to Kentucky in a couple of weeks to speak to a school group about one of my speeches that I give, that's called One Decision, because with what happened with my son, I mean, he was one decision away from a completely different life, which we all usually are. Whether we're choosing to eat those French fries, or we're choosing to go out on that date. We're one decision away from a completely different life. So
people don't realize, it's funny. It was probably like a Facebook meme or something like that, but basically the idea that in time travel movies, the wise person always says, when you go back in time, don't mess with anything, because the smallest change will completely disrupt the universe. Well, why not make those small changes now and disrupt the future?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You just gave me chills. Bill, you just gave me chills. Make the changes now and disrupt the future. I love that. I'm serious. Oh, wow. That was beautiful.
It doesn't take
Dang.
much.
Mic drop right there.
Right there,
My goodness. Drop it.
Okay, we're done. No.
Yeah, wow. I'm good. That was beautiful.
But No, actually, it's funny that you mentioned speaking. One of my day jobs, because I can't have enough of those, uh, actually works with speakers to improve their profile, their brand and public stance, and all that. It's something that's really really of interest to me. I have another guest who's now a client, another guest from the show, Russell Van. He wrote a series of books called Ghetto Bastard, and about his life moving from the ghettos and being an unwanted child, being raised by his great grandmother to where he is today, and we're working him up to get him on a speaking tour.
Well, hey, you text me, email me, or whatever after this, because I feel like everything happens for a reason,
Absolutely.
and I need someone like that in my life. I'm not kidding you. Like, that's amazing. And I've been very blessed. But honestly, Bill, I cannot believe that I believe in manifestation as well, and I think I manifested you into my life. You and I are going to tour. We're going to go on a tour and have a great time, is what we're going to
Sounds
do.
like a plan. Um,
Yes.
but let's see. What else can we? Let's see. The determination. What is the five method? I was looking through.
So the
I was
five,
looking through the stuff, and I couldn't find anything on details.
yes, it's in my book. Keeping that one under wraps. So the five method is essentially a coping mechanism for folks who have PTSD or anxiety, or just stress in general. Sometimes when we're stressed out, our body just produces cortisol, which is a. So the five method starts with simply, there's five steps to it, but I'm just going to give you the first one just to tease you, as they say. So the
Yeah.
first one in the five method is to simply ask yourself, how many times are you in a crap situation and you're like just stressing out, and you're thinking fire, fire, fire. And really, when you just need to ask yourself a simple question that can change your brain chemistry is, are you safe? So the first question that I have my clients, because I do individual coaching, is ask
Cool.
themselves, are you safe? Because once you decide and you can recognize, and your body is no longer in that caveman fight or flight, you can make better decisions. You can calm your central nervous system, because let's be realistic. If you have a tiger, that's the reason why we have fight or flight. The
Right.
tiger running after you whole concept was to save ourselves. Now, if we don't need to save ourselves or save anyone else, usually we can think better and calm ourselves and make better decisions, so that we don't put ourselves or allow someone else to put us in a situation where we get into that fight or fight method. So next time, ask yourself simply one question: am I safe? Just ask yourself that.
Okay. That's very sound. That sounds like very sound advice. Um,
It's been working with, not years, with working with therapy, and my therapist and I, who her name is Jen, she's absolutely amazing, and she and I have worked with each other on this over the last year and a half, to develop this technique that I really am pushing for children to use as well, because we don't realize how stressed our kids are, in general.
stressful world. I mean,
It is.
for especially for kids today. I mean, doing active shooter drills now and whatnot. I mean,
Yes.
it was tough enough doing fire and earthquake drills. Yeah. Now,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
ridiculous. But yeah, I used to work with well, Rudy, my Ed McMahon, if you will. His wife. That's how we met. His wife had several medical issues, including extreme anxiety.
Mhm.
Leah would have these terrible anxiety, full blown anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, having a method to work through probably would have been pretty helpful. I remember sometimes trying to help her work through the anxiety. It's tough because just so you don't if you don't know somebody or you don't have it yourself, you can't understand how bad real full blown clinical anxiety is.
That's
Yeah,
yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. And that was one of the major components that I was dealing with through my divorces. I was finding myself, I'd gone from this super, super confident, strong person who was able to make good decisions, and I was finding that my anxiety was, it became so paralyzing. I was pulling over on the side of the road at times because I was afraid, okay, I'm gonna, just the things that are completely irrational to someone else but made sense to me, and then to explain it to my friends who, just like you said, who did not understand how my anxiety was debilitating, and working with this therapist, and she's just absolutely outstanding. I highly recommend you getting a
oh,
therapist and someone, and if that therapist doesn't work, and don't be afraid to
yep,
switch. Don't be, because we become so loyal to whether it's going to a certain McDonald's. If they stop, if your burger keeps getting messed up, you probably need to go to a different restaurant, you know.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, there's even a life cycle of a therapist. Really, I think that you go to a
Yes.
therapist for so long and then it's no longer effective. It's kind of like becoming resistant to your medication, and
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely something I think people should do and change up from time to time. But
I agree. Thank you for,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I agree.
yeah. Yeah, depression can be much the same way. Your brain doesn't want to see doesn't see other people's reality anymore. Your reality shifts right out of your bubble, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't the world just doesn't make the same kind of sense you do that it does for people who aren't. Um, sorry, I have a reality theory, I guess you could call it. Years ago, I thought I was going to be an actor, and I
Okay.
was in a play out in Hollywood, The Merry Wives of Windsor. So I got a little bit of
Okay.
Shakespeare, and
Love it.
trampling the boards, as it were. But one day after rehearsal, we went to have lunch on this little sidewalk cafe, and in the middle of the street it was a larger street. In the middle of the street was like a grassy median, but it was really wide, so there were
Hmm.
trees. It was like a mini park, if you will,
Sure.
and really nice backdrop. Well, there was a gentleman out there, I assume was homeless, and he was standing on the median, barking at the passing cars.
Wow. Okay.
And then as the afternoon progressed, I noticed that he went over to one of the trees, sat down, pulled out a little bag, and ate his lunch. Perfectly normal thing to do. And then once
Yes.
his lunch was done, he stood back up, walked back to where he had been standing, and continued barking at cars. And it occurred to me that that was his reality. That
Hmm.
his reality was this little bubble in which those things and that sequence of events made perfect sense. And if I was to go over there and tell him he was crazy, he would get offended because that is his reality.
Yes.
And it occurred to me
Yes.
that we're all that way. We all have our own. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
for the most part, people's realities overlap a lot. But
Hmm.
it's like little Venn diagrams all over the place. My reality mostly overlaps yours, but I probably have some weird things that I think are real that you don't. And some people, their reality is skewed way off, but it's still their reality, and you have to have a certain
Facts.
respect for that. And if you're going to reach that person, especially if you're going to try to reach that person,
Hmm.
and help them come back into a functional. But
But I agree with you. But one of the things that I truly, truly love Neville Goddard. I love his teachings, the way that he articulates, your how the mind works and manifestation, and just his of how we like, just what you said, we create. I feel like we do create our own reality. So how often have you thought of something and a song comes on and the frequencies of those things. So, and just like myself, I literally spoke to probably not even 2.5 hours ago, a speaking organization about trying to get me on a speaking circuit. So, yeah. So, but what do you do, Bill? That's crazy.
I help speakers get on speaking circuits.
But Bill, but what happened? No, let's be realistic and transparent with everybody, so that before everybody thinks that we're both crazy. Yesterday, you ended up with a cancellation. I think I responded at midnight. Maybe I don't even remember when I responded.
It was pretty late.
Yes, and I'm normally in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. That's absolutely. But I believe we invited each other into our own reality, our realities. And now people are gonna be like, okay, we're clicking off here. This is crazy. But how is that possible? How is that even remotely possible for two people who are on opposite ends of the country to be able to have a symbiotic relationship that not only will help you but help me?
Yep.
How is that?
Absolutely. It's there's a quote from an old television show I used to watch that's always stuck with me. I believe in coincidences. Coincidences happen all the time, but I don't trust them. They're too convenient.
Yeah. Got ya.
I fully believe there's somebody pulling the strings, and
I got you.
And definitely people meet up for a reason.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah,
wow.
So once again, it's mandylemond.com. Mandy Lemond.
Yes. That's a perfect way of putting it.
And you can find out more about Mandy there. Contact her, and there's a motivational video and all sorts of stuff over there. And all, which is really cool. It's a nice simple website.
That's where you come in.
Yeah, that's where I come in.
Too funny.
So, but yeah, you should head over there. The books are, let's see, the Fostered one is the book that's out now, and that's available on like Amazon and those kinds of places, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So so you can go and give Jeff Bezos a few more of your dollars.
Stop.
I shouldn't laugh. I'm expecting a delivery today.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You're silly. You are too silly. You are too silly.
Wow. But yeah, and then the new book has a really long title. What was it again?
Yes, it does. It's A Perfect Divorce.
A Perfect Divorce.
How to stay sane.
How to stay sane.
When your ex drives you crazy. And then just like in a little yes, and then there's a cute little bubble that says, and you are that ex.
You are that ex.
So
that's funny. Now
it'll be good. It'll be
my
good.
divorce led to a complete breakdown, and I have not seen or spoken to my ex in like 15 years.
Wow.
The only time I hear anything about her is when Facebook decides, hey Bill, you might know this person. I'm like, yes, I do. Thanks for reminding me.
That's too. It's funny, not funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny, not funny. I'm literally friends with every. I was engaged prior to my current marriage. He's an attorney actually in Boca Raton, who's a good friend of mine. How can I put this nicely? I'm pretty easy to get along with, likable to a degree. To a degree, I'm likable to a degree, but I just don't see. I part of one of the things, if you follow me on Facebook eventually, one of the things I sent out a little snippet of a chapter, and we decided, my ex and I decided that we're not going to throw away. I encourage other people to not throw away someone who probably knows that you are allergic to shellfish, and the guy that's on the date doesn't. So, yeah, those things. Yeah. I'm so glad you had me on.
I'm so glad I had you on too.
Thank you.
Let's see. I was gonna look you up on Facebook, but I can't tell. I can't tell which one you are.
It is the one.
Oh,
I think it's the one
digital
with
creator.
the picture. Yes. Yeah. That's me. Yeah.
Okay, Eastern Kentucky University.
That's me. That's me. He's like, hold on, who's this hottie? Yeah, some of my modeling pictures are on there. I see your friend request. I got it.
Yep.
I got you. Very cool. I'm
Yep.
responding now. Confirmed. There you go.
Woohoo!
Take a little look. See. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Now we can see each other.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Uh-oh. Lost your image.
Too fun.
I lost
There
your
we go.
beautiful visage.
There we go. There we go. Am I back? You're so sweet.
There we go.
Stacy is looks like, oh, there's okay. There we go. All right, perfect, perfect.
Yeah,
Good deal.
yeah, so yeah, absolutely interesting. I can't wait to get a hold of the fostered one. Your story is just absolutely amazing.
Thank
If
you.
anybody can get through what you've gotten through, then definitely the world's open. Yeah, there's nothing that the small barriers in my life that can keep me down.
That's right. That's right. Keep pushing. That's what I always tell people.
2023 is going to be the best year ever.
It is 23. 2023 is the best me.
Yep, there you go. It even rhymes.
It does. That's what I write for a little.
Me. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect.
Well, that's not all the. Well, let's see. What are some of the other questions I'd like to ask? Because we've been having such a great conversation, I hate to end it.
Well, you just have me back sometime
yes.
after. That's perfectly fine.
Anytime.
Yeah, just have me back sometime.
Anytime. I sent you the link to book. You'd be interesting to have on the round table. That's for sure.
I would love that.
Yeah. And,
I would love that.
And so yeah. So go out and buy Mandy's books and book her as a speaker and all sorts of great and wonderful things.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Bill. I look forward to speaking with you later today.
Absolutely.
Okay, chat soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. And everybody out there, remember to wash your hands, stay safe, and watch the ending credits. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. I'd like to thank my producer, my beloved mother, Eileen Hatch. I, of course, am your humble host. I'd like to thank my beloved Ed McMahon, Rudy Corlew.
Yes.
And Stacy didn't show up, but my special guest, Mandy Lemond.
Yes.
Support the show if you feel so led over on patreon.com. We're known as Bald Spots Pro.
Yes.
Certainly have some interesting ways to reward yourself. Don't you dare miss YWL Online. We're there on Facebook and wherever fine podcasts are offered. Tune in next time for Karen Ford and Tony Jetton Salemi.
Yes.
Oh, that's going to be a great show. Please like, comment, and share to stay informed. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people. If you or someone you know needs support now, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. Thank you again for tuning in and have yourselves a wonderful whenever.
Yes.